a little bit about you and your business and kind of why you started your business, and we'll just go from there.
All right. Well, thank you, Brooke, for inviting me into this awesome group. I am Jillian Schleger. I'm an author, coach, and healer. And I started this business. I'll try to kind of do a short version of this, but about a year ago, well, I've been a healer, coach, teacher for about 25 years, and in some aspect or regard. And about a year ago, after some turmoil in my life, I was watching an Amanda Frances video, and I love her. But she was talking about income, and she talked about going from $2,000 a month to $6,000 to $10,000 to whatever. And then she said she couldn't imagine a month where she was making less than $100,000 a month. And I just went, how is that possible? I'm a very analytical person. So my brain was going, how many jobs? I need to sleep this many hours. Like I started analyzing it. And then the next video I saw was talking about Eckhart Tolle and how he goes into this windows of abundance kind of visualization where he's sitting in a hollowed out building. There's like thousands and thousands of windows all around and above him. So I started muscle testing how many windows of abundance I was allowing open for myself. And I muscle tested that I only had half of one window open.
Wow. I've never heard that.
Yeah.
The way that's presented before. That's really cool.
It was really neat. Yeah. So then the kind of cool thing happened because I do a lot of healing and I sort of am a collector. I sort of collect, like I started with therapeutic touch. I did reflexology. I did astrology, parapsychology, EFT, NLP, Reiki. Like I've done a lot of healing modalities. So I've kind of merged them into one modality that I use in my coaching business. And that's what I did when I found out that I only had like half of one window open for abundance to come to me through. I did a whole bunch of healing. So EFT and NLP. And that then I retested. I test using muscle testing, and it went up to 4 windows of abundance.
Wow.
So yeah, and that was just a quick like 5-minute tapping or healing session.
Yeah. That's so cool. That stuff is so interesting to me. That it's still kind of like a new world from where I come from, like corporate before. So I've only been doing my business for the past couple of years, and I'm like, I love Amanda Frances too, but I'm just kind of getting into all that. So that's so interesting to hear, like all of these different perspectives. I love it. It's awesome.
It is really interesting, and it's interesting to see what can be shifted in a really quick amount of time. Like you no longer have to sit, if you have severe trauma, you no longer have to go and sit in a therapy session for years to get through the trauma. And that's what's exciting about it. It can be shifted really quickly.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. So the next question is the one that I always like to ask everybody. Just what is your definition of branding and how has branding affected your business?
So branding to me has been tricky, to be honest with you. I've really struggled because getting online, and I was doing my thing for a while, which was working, but then I started doing it full time. And I was showing up all the time, owning my business and showing up. And then I started hearing from other people, well, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. And that kind of veered me off course. So when I started, when Heather actually introduced us, and when I started coming into your group and hearing your lives and the information, you give so much information in this group, which is really awesome. I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
But yeah, and that really kind of showed me that you have to show up as yourself.
Yes.
On a consistent basis. So that to me is what branding is. And that's really helped me a lot, because there is that, we're going to get into the woo aspect, but there is that, that spiritual aspect, the woo side of what I do that is, honestly, it's quantum physics. Like quantum physicists are now and have now written articles and proved that this woo stuff is actually science. is factual evidence to back it up and base it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So that's why I was, I think, having trouble, because all of these other people were coming at it from a, you need to logistically and logically do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And I was coming at it from a, but it has to feel good.
Yeah.
So there was that kind of push and pull.
Yeah.
Yeah. So branding to me is showing up authentically on a consistent, regular basis with an aspect of flow. It has to feel good.
Yep. That's perfect. That's exactly how my brain works. I'm very logical and analytical too. And I'm like, when I first got introduced to all that stuff, I was like, I want to buy into that, but my logical side just won't let me for some reason. And that's so interesting that you bring it up like that. And there is science to back it up. And I love hearing that stuff. That's awesome. So it looks like we have, sorry, go ahead.
It gets me really excited to hear authors and speakers who do have scientific proof of it. So
yeah, that's so cool. So it looks like we have a few people who have joined live. So if anybody else is here, go ahead and say hi so that we know you're here. And Jillian's just about to start teaching us her thing. So if anybody has any questions along the way, be sure and put them in the box and we'll go back and check them out. So whenever you're ready, let's just dive in.
Okay. So yeah, I can't see the chat, guys. So if Brooke will have to start doing jumping jacks or something. Correct me if I'm in flow. Really what I want to do is really have this interactive. So that's the best thing. I can tell you what I do, but the most fun with what I do is that it is interactive and we can kind of shift some stuff.
Okay, so comment, people. Let's talk.
And if there's anybody, my people from my page here, or even like there's Dana who comes into this group all the time as well, who sees my video. And I do muscle tests for people. So I'll kind of back up. So about a year ago, I saw those videos, I put 2 and 2 together. I came up with a healing system amalgamating about 4 other healing modalities. And then I wrote a book. So I have an ebook out called Kinetic Divination. And from then on, I just kind of flew by the seat of my pants. So the healing system that I use, I have been a Reiki practitioner for about 25 years. And that's how I tap in with people. So it would be like I'm doing a healing session on you, a distance healing on you. And I tap in and I muscle test on your behalf.
That's so crazy. That just like blows my mind. So how exactly does that work? Like, what does that look like?
So, well, I'll tell you how to muscle test first. Okay. So muscle testing is the premise that your body can't lie. And it's really neat. And I teach, I talk about it till I'm blue in the face. Like I want everybody to muscle test for everything. Yeah. It's really neat. So there was one explanation is, or one situation where before I even did muscle testing, I was going to an appointment. There was a chance that I had breast cancer. Wow. And I was with a friend of mine. We stopped for coffee and we were just kind of, having that chill out moment, like you're going to be okay. And I'm here with you and whatever. And we're sitting there and my friend said to me, like, you're going to be fine. You don't, like, everything's going to be fine. Right. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, I don't have cancer. And when I said that, I felt like I had just lied to my best friend. Wow. And I did have cancer. I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So that was kind of the start of what was that? Like, why did I feel like I was lying to myself when I didn't know? I had no conscious idea that I had breast cancer. So obviously that's interesting and a pivotal moment, but then I was thrown into the medical side of doing that and I'm fine now. Everything's perfect. Good. But I can't kind of come back to that. What is this muscle testing thing? So for years I would kind of delve into it, but I never heard about how you could muscle test yourself. You always had to be muscle tested with somebody else. So I'll show you guys this because it kind of, if you've never done it, it's really cool, and you freak people out with it, which
that's always fun.
It's always fun. So what I tell people, if you're physically able to do this, please don't do it if you are not physically able, if you're going to hurt yourself, but you put one arm out to the side at shoulder height. And what you're going to do is you're going to be with a person, a partner, and your partner is going to be your tester. So you're going to want to resist your partner pushing down on your arm. Okay. You're not going to arm wrestle. You don't want to act like you're trying to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, but try to resist your friend pushing it down. So you're going to baseline test first. We're scientists here, right? So you're baseline first. And then your friend is just going to put 2 fingers on your wrist and baseline. So your friend will say resist and then push down on your arm. And your arm will bounce a little bit, but it won't weaken for the baseline test, or it shouldn't. And then your friend will say, tell me yes. You'll say yes. And your friend will say resist. We'll push down on your arm, and your arm again should just bounce a little bit for yes. And then your friend will say, tell me no. You'll say no. He or she will say resist. You try to hold your arm as still as you can, and pushing down, your arm should fall. Okay. So this is, your body can't lie. And that's what that is.
That's amazing.
It's really neat. It is really, really neat. So the next one that I want you guys to try though is your friend can say to you, your body is at an energetic resonance of courage or above. And you'll say yes. And then you test that. So a little bit of a bounce is yes. And your arm dropping below the little bounce is a no. So that's important because many, many scientists, Dr. David R. Hawkins is one that I follow. Love, love, love that man's work. He has devised so many experiments around muscle testing. And he says that to be able to muscle test yourself, you have to be at the energetic resonance of courage or above. And courage is the beginning of integrity.
Wow. I like that.
Yeah, that's my geek out rant.
No, I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah. So I've actually taken that one step further though. So what I do for muscle testing is I use a pendulum. So a pendulum is pinched between your fingers. We have nerve endings in our fingers. So it is the same as muscle testing. And I have charts. I have, I think, close to 20 charts that I use to test different things on different people. And a lot of naturopaths do this as well. They muscle test, and some naturopaths or even Chinese medicine will use a pendulum as well with their client or student.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
This is just like, sorry if I'm just like looking at you, like it's blowing my mind for sure. I've never heard of any of this stuff, and it's amazing. That it's like, I don't even, I'm sure like tomorrow I'll think of all these really great questions that I should have asked you. So if anybody else is like me too and just can't process how cool this is, we'll check comments later. But
and the video will be up. So yeah. So do you mind if I blow your mind a little bit more?
Yeah, please.
So muscle testing doesn't just stop with your body. We can muscle test what is happening in your subconscious mind. So we can muscle test, like if you're trying to manifest something in your life, if there's a goal that you're trying to work towards, but you just keep running into this wall and you don't know what's going on. So if you're trying to manifest, if you have a business and you're trying to break through that barrier of my business is going to make $15,000 this month, but you just can't get through that wall, that ceiling, right? We can test what limiting beliefs are there blocking that. So you might have heard when you were 2, 3, 4 years old, your mother or your father saying, money's bad. Money's hard to come by. You have to work hard for money. Wealthy people are a-holes. All of these things we hear, and it gets filed. And then we grow up and we try to live our lives the way we want to, but we are resisted. There's limitations there because of these limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
and imprinted beliefs. So limiting beliefs are beliefs that we see in our environment, and we see them enough times that they get filtered in our brain.
Mm-hmm.
And imprinted beliefs are beliefs that we know our parents or our tribe has, and then we take them on as our own.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So there's different levels, there's different depths, and that's what's interesting about muscle testing, is that I can test what it is that's actually blocking people from attaining their goals and dreams. So that's the first step. Mm-hmm. In my business. The next step is to figure out how we can heal that. Mm-hmm. And how we can shift it. So like I said before, you don't have to sit in a chair in a psychologist or therapist's office for years and years and years, regurgitating my mama hurt me when I was 2, right? Yeah. Now we can actually take things like NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, along with the Reiki connection that I connect with people, mm-hmm. and I walk them through different healing modalities. So it can be EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, mm-hmm. neuro-linguistic programming, or we can actually do a quantum healing session as well, which goes a little bit deeper into quantum physics. Mm-hmm. And we can actually dissolve those traumas. We can disarm emotional triggers. We can neutralize old stories and then reprogram mm-hmm. stories that are more positive and will actually help you attain those goals.
It's crazy. That's
it
amazing.
Is crazy. Yeah.
That's amazing. So how did you, like, just random side note question, how did you like discover all of this stuff? Like you talked about the cancer story, but all of the other stuff, is that like...
I was a very strange child.
Okay.
When I was a child, I actually wanted to be either a parapsychologist or an Egyptologist.
Okay.
And my mother was, I must have given her so many nightmares, because like, you know, she wanted this perfect little princess, and I was not that at all, right? But I was always the first book that my father gave me, or the first book I think I ever got, was on fortune telling. Yeah, I was always into mm-hmm. How stuff worked, but mm-hmm. at a deeper energetic level.
Yeah.
Not like a take a clock apart and see how we can put it back together, but how does actually, like, quantum physics. I should have been like, well, I'm not that smart with like math and science and stuff. So this is my perfect job.
Yeah. Right? I love it. Yeah. It's just always been there. I love it when people can just, stuff that's always been there like that, just make it work for you. That's amazing. Yeah. I love your whole story. It's awesome. I feel like I'm saying the same things over and over and over again. I'm sorry. I'm like a terrible host on this one.
No,
you just like blew my mind.
Yeah. That's good. It is really interesting. And I like when this kind of came to me last year and I wrote this book, I was on fire, because I'm like, if I can do this, then anybody can do this. And that's what I do with my healing sessions or coaching sessions. I don't just heal people. Mm-hmm. I try to explain to people if they are looking for a life coach. Life coaches explain give tools and techniques on how to do things, how to attain your goals. Mm-hmm. But if you are like 85% of the adult world, we have these restrictions, we have these limiting beliefs, and they kind of anchor you. So you're trying to go forward, but you feel stuck. Mm-hmm. And that's where I come in, and my modality comes in of healing, because I not only, as a life coach, give these tools and techniques to help my clients and students achieve their goals, but mm-hmm. then we dissect and we go deep into what are those anchors that are keeping you stuck, and mm-hmm. let's dissolve them. Yeah. So that's my process with my business.
Wow.
Mhm.
I love it. So what types of, like, do you help business owners or just any human or like, who do you usually work with? Any human? Yeah.
Yeah. But I do, there are a lot of business owners that do gravitate towards me, towards what I teach and what I provide, because the tools, and if anybody has any questions, let us know so that we can maybe shift some stuff. If anybody feels like there's some blocks or there's resistance or anything like that, we can do that. But that's, yeah, business owners are trying to find their soulmate clients or reach a new pinnacle in their career. And if there is that stuck feeling or anchored to a past limitation, that's when I can come in and dissolve all of that. But it's also teaching the tools, right? So I teach people the tools to do this on their own. And then once you have them, you have them. Yeah. And you can use them on your own.
Yeah. I love how you keep saying the word dissolve too. I've never heard anybody talk about like getting rid of bad belief systems that way. That's such a good word.
I'm an artist, so I do encaustic painting and I do photography as well. So I actually am very visual. So when I'm in a healing session, and that helps with my connection with the Reiki energy and doing that distance connection, I'm very visual. So I imagine it and I can kind of see, I don't, people kind of get confused. I'm not a psychic. I'll say that I'm an intuitive because intuitives really feel, and I am empathic. So I feel very, very deeply. But I will, when I'm connected to somebody, I'll feel in my body what that person is feeling. And then in my body, I can ask that energy to dissolve. And that's what I envision. I visualize that.
Wow. I love that. That's so cool. That's so awesome. I'm loving this. I mean, I feel like I'm going to have to go watch this video like 10 more times when we get done and just like pick up on things that I'm sure that I've missed, because I'm just like, wow. So that's awesome.
And if it's new, it is kind of overwhelming because it does seem, and that's a little bit of, you know, I am a very artistic person. So when it comes to copy and when it comes to explaining what I do, I'm okay talking with somebody, but when I'm trying to post a post on Facebook, I feel like it's not coming across the right way because it is 90% unbelievable.
Yeah. That makes sense. It's hard to articulate it on paper for sure.
Yeah.
Stick with video, girl.
Right.
Because you're awesome on video. No, I mean, it's just like any other skill. I think there are ways to do stuff like that, but it definitely is much harder when it's something, and it's so new to a lot of people. Like people don't know what you're talking about at all, or it's like, it doesn't seem possible.
Coming back to before I was introduced to you and branding and really honing in on what branding was, people would say to me, well, you can't use those woo words or those spiritual words. And I'm like, there's no other way to say it.
Yeah.
There's no other way to say it.
Yeah. Well, and why not? I mean,
yeah. And getting back to your soulmate client is going to use the same words. My soulmate client is going to use the same words.
Yes,
exactly. With the same people, right? Yeah.
I love it. So you gave us a link too for a freebie of some kind. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I think I gave you the link to the Shift from Fear freebie, and that's I have quite a lot of freebies, but that's one of my favorites.
Okay.
So getting back to Dr. David R. Hawkins, he created this map of consciousness, which is my second favorite thing in the world, besides entanglement, which I can get into later. But the map of consciousness goes through the energetic megahertz of every living thing and non-living thing. So I talked before about we can muscle test ourselves at courage and above. So that's 200 megahertz. And before I go past there, once you do that muscle testing with your friend or partner, what you can do is you can muscle test yourself if you're at courage or above by pinching your middle finger and thumb. So if you want to try this right now, let's freak you out a little bit more. So pinching middle finger and thumb, and then you're going to link them together. Yes. So you're creating an infinity symbol. You're going to pinch really hard and then pull just to test your baseline again. And then pinch really hard and say or think yes and pull.
Okay.
And try to break, but try to stay strong at the same time. And now you're going to say no and pull again.
Okay.
So you can try that back and forth. So again, yes, you're staying strong because yes is your body is strong. No, your body weakens.
Okay. Okay. So yes is strong. No is not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one way you can muscle test yourself. The
Okay.
other way is bending your middle finger, putting it on the nail bed of your index finger.
Okay.
And you're going to base, so you hold your index finger really, really strong, and you're going to push down to baseline. And then you're going to say, what is yes? And push down. And then you're going to say, what is no? And push down.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. So those are two ways. The third way that I use a lot is I call the body pendulum. So you're standing up, feet shoulder width apart, and you feel like you're a tree. You feel like you have roots into the earth and you're really strong and stable. Mm-hmm. And then you say to your body, what does yes look like? And you wait and you allow your body to move any way that it's going to. And then after that, you say, what does no look like? Normally people lean forward for yes, and they lean back for no, but some people are different. So yeah, that's another technique. And some people do this in the grocery store. If they're looking at 2 soup cans, right? If they're looking at 2, pick one up and say, is this in my greatest and highest good to ingest or eat this one? And you can either go back for no, and then you'll check and the sodium's like 45%, right? So a lot of people use that technique.
Huh.
Things, yeah.
And see, I wasn't even thinking anything like that. I'm thinking like huge, big picture, these massive questions. And so even like anything at all.
Anything. A healer by the name of Christy Marie Sheldon talks about muscle testing. I don't know if she uses the word muscle testing, but she'll say, what does yes and no feel like? And it even, I'm going out on this date. Is going out to meet this person in my greatest and highest good.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah, you can muscle test absolutely anything.
That's so cool. Cool. So, and that's kind of what you talk about that a little bit more in the freebie, or is that what that one? Okay.
Yeah. So shifting from fear, we talk about, I kind of go through the steps of muscle testing like we just did. Okay. And then I go into the map of consciousness and I talk about if you are focused on a goal in your life, but you have fear surrounding that goal, then you can go into this shift from fear toolkit. And this toolkit walks you through the steps to raise your frequency or energetic resonance above fear. And you go as high as you can go. So the next step above fear is courage. No, it's not. I'm kidding. No, it's desire. Sorry. So if you're thinking about the goal, so if you want your business to make $15,000 this month, but you have fear around that, does the desire to meet that goal kick fear out of the way? Okay. And then you can rate it. So instead of you can muscle test, you can use a pendulum like I do, or you can do a 0 to 10 scale. So 0 being no, 10 being 100% yes. So then once you get to desire and you feel into that desire and you kind of anchor that feeling in, like, yeah, I want this more than I'm fearful of it. I want this. Then you go to courage. So do you have the courage to do what it takes because of that desire? Yeah. And desire will fuel the courage. and then courage going to acceptance, and then going to understanding, then going to love. So it climbs, it makes, it allowed you to climb out of that lower energy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, I'm downloading it as soon as we get off of here for sure. That's awesome. So if anybody else has any more questions, since I just like can't even process anything at this point, now is the time. But this is I'm seriously gonna watch this video again. Probably more than that too. So if anybody else has any other questions, because I dropped the ball.
No, that's all right. So as we're waiting for questions to come in, so one of the charts that I have is actually the energetic resonance chart, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it very well. It's okay, actually.
Yeah.
So that is the energetic resonance chart that I use, and this is what I use for every client on every session I have. So we are at least 60% water, and we fluctuate all the time. So we're never in, Christine Marie Sheldon again is one of the healers that I love and look up to. And she has a course called Love or Above. And when I first started in that course, she said, you have to be at love or above. Well, I love her, but that's BS. You cannot walk around, think about your day. You can't walk around in the frequency of love all the time. No.
Yeah. That would be really hard.
It would be, and you would feel kind of fake, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would anyway.
Yeah, like, for sure.
So backing up to the map of consciousness and my story of cancer. So a really interesting evolvement with that was I learned when I started getting into muscle testing, and then last year when this whole thing kind of came together, which was very interesting, I learned that I was always in either shame or guilt because of my childhood, because I grew up in a household with a father who shamed me every day. Shame is at an energetic resonance of 20.
Okay.
Guilt is at an energetic resonance of 30. And to put that in perspective, Dr. David Hawkins and others have muscle tested many, many things. A pile of dried herbs is at an energetic resonance of 15.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, five less than shame. Yeah. Wow. Cancer grows at 42.
Okay.
So this is another reason why I'm so passionate about the work that I do, because I really believe that, you know, they talk about the body, cancer can't grow in a body that is alkaline. It grows in an acidic body.
Okay.
But I also believe that cancer can't grow if you're at a higher energetic resonance. Wow.
So there's like this whole other side to it too.
Yeah. It goes very, very deep. This yeah. There's a lot to it.
I love it. So we do have a couple of questions. Yay. So Heather says, so if I'm around a 6 on a scale of 1 to 10 about whether or not I feel safe to be wealthy, what am I supposed to do?
Okay. So let me see here. All right. So what we're going to do is, one technique that I use for NLP is NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, has this thing called the NLP grid. It's a really ugly looking thing. So I made a chart and I tried to make it pretty. And then another scientist that I follow, he's actually a monk. He's not really a scientist, but he kind of goes into a lot of the quantum physics stuff. He does kind of jumping. He talks about a whiteboard or just a board that you visualize in front of you. Okay. On the left side of this board are things that are resistive or depleting or negative. Okay. Things that you don't like, things that don't resonate well with you. On the right side are things that you do resonate with. And also right side can be easy, left side can be hard.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to do this because in case I'm backwards, I screw people up.
I think we get it. So.
Okay, so remember the right side is good, left side is bad.
Okay.
So if you're thinking of the affirmation, it's safe for me to be wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
And the right side would be, far right would be 100% yes.
Mm-hmm.
Our left side would be 100% no. You can also think of 0 to 10. So far left would be 0, far right would be 10. However, it's easiest for you to envision. So envision this whiteboard in front of you and picture if you were putting a chess piece on this whiteboard, thinking about the affirmation, it's safe for me to be wealthy, where would that piece be?
Mm-hmm.
So Heather said it was at a 6.
Yep.
So you're about 60%. So that's on the right side still, which is good, but you need to be at least 80% belief in something to actually manifest it. You don't have to be at 100%. You just have to be at 80.
Okay.
So 60 is pretty close. So what you're going to do is, again, we're going to blow your mind. So actually, before I do that, Brooke, do you want to think about it's safe for me to be wealthy? And where would you place your chess piece on this board? What kind of belief do you have in that?
I feel like I'm closer with Heather, like at 6, maybe 7 on a good day.
Okay. All right. So now what you're going to do is you're going to envision and visualize. You don't have to actually physically do it, but you can. Visualize that you're putting your hand inside this whiteboard and you're picking up that chess piece and you're moving it to 100% on the right.
Okay.
So visualize doing that now.
Okay. Okay.
And then you want to ask 2 questions. One is, does it move?
Does it move?
Yeah. Does it feel like it moved?
Yeah.
Yep. And 2, did it stay at 100%?
Okay. I'm not good at this visualization stuff, but I mean,
That's okay.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So we can ask Heather if hers stayed at 100% or if it did move. Sometimes we get into, that's where the emotional triggers come in. That's where the limiting beliefs and actually trauma come in. Sometimes when I have clients that are doing this exercise or getting past, trying to get to a goal in their business or in their life, and they feel stuck because there's an actual anchor there. There's an actual emotional trigger and a trauma that's keeping them from achieving that. So maybe my family doesn't make very much money, so I shouldn't be able to make very much money.
Mm-hmm.
Or the money's the bad, all of that kind of stuff. Or if you are a spiritual entrepreneur, we have a whole bunch of these. We have the vow of poverty. Well, Jesus was a healer and he didn't get paid for it, so I should, right?
Yeah.
So there's all of these traumas and vows and contracts that are actually keeping us from achieving our goals.
Okay.
Which is really happy. But
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something to overcome, but that makes sense logically to me.
So sometimes when people put their hands in there, it won't move. It can't move.
Okay. So Heather said, I'm not good at visualizing things either, but mine did stay at 100.
Good.
And then she said this time.
Yeah. So the next thing you want to do is there's in the middle of your sternum, there's the thymus gland underneath your sternum. Okay. And you need to tap or do a thymus thump if it did stay at 100.
Okay.
And you do that till you get a sigh. And that sigh is you anchoring that new energetic alignment.
Okay.
With your safe being wealthy at 100% belief.
Dude. This is awesome. This is so cool.
It's pretty neat stuff.
It really is. So I think we had another question too. Let me, Tanya says, is the pendulum muscle testing the same as normal pendulum work with the show me yes, show me no response?
Yes. So hi, Tanya. Okay. So let's get into some freaky stuff here. So years ago in the spiritual time, I can't remember what they called it. Like it was back in the romantic period when they did a lot of psychic stuff. They did a lot of Ouija boards and seances and all of that medium stuff. A lot of people used a pendulum during that time to communicate with spirits.
Okay.
So, and that's where the term divination came in, or divining. But I see divination as divine action, and divination is actually about the movement of the pendulum, right? So when I do any kind of work, even when you're meditating, you are opening yourself up spiritually. You want to be aware of that, and you want to always shield, ground, and protect yourself, which I, of course, teach. But I do this with the pendulum as well. I do believe in spirits. I do believe in other realities and entities. And I think that when we are light workers, when we're spiritual people, we actually shine a little bit differently than other people who are kind of closed off to that.
Okay.
And when we sit down and when we open up to communicate, and that's what we're doing when we're working with a pendulum, is we're opening up to communicate. I intend this communication is only to my body, my energy system, my higher self, or to my client or student. If anybody else is doing anything like this, what I want to suggest is when you're doing testing with yourself, please do intend that you are only testing yourself. You're not opening up to communicating with anything else. You can envision a white light around your house or around you, things like that.
Okay.
When you're communicating with somebody else, like if I was tapping in energetically with Brooke, and I don't, please, again, don't do this unless you have confirmation and somebody allows you to do it. But I would, as if I was doing a Reiki session with you, I would tap in energetically. But for us, I would ask you to visualize that we're standing in a crowded room and there's a lot of people between us, but all of those people are black and white, and you and I are colored.
Okay.
So we're only allowing that communication to happen with us and nobody else. So that's very important. But there were a lot of different ways that people used a pendulum. So they would use a pendulum or a Ouija board to communicate with spirits or with the dead. And I don't want any of that stuff. I into parapsychology. I love it. But, and I watch scary movies all the time, but keep that out there. I like sleeping and not being interrupted by stuff. So,
okay. Okay. That's so interesting now. That's so, like, again, my mind is still just blown, but
it would be this deep of a topic when we,
I'm loving it though, for real. Like, I'm loving it. I'm just going to have to go back and watch again. So Heather says, my limiting belief is you have to work so hard to make money and be wealthy.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So we can do the whiteboard with this as well. So this one, we're doing the opposite. So you think about where that belief is, like on the right, far right would be 100% yes, I believe that. And far left is 100% no, I don't believe that. Okay. So you want to put your hand in, see where that chess piece is for that belief. Put your hand in, pick up the chess piece and move it to the left and try to get it to 100% on the left.
Okay. So it's okay. I gotcha. I'm with you.
Yeah. So now to put this into perspective, this is how I quit smoking.
Wow. Again, you're just like, I'm still in like whole big picture mode, and you're talking about like actual practical things, like to you, not that the big things aren't practical, but you know, like, okay, that's crazy.
So I am divorced. I went through a very, very nasty divorce, and I would probably I'm a very spiritual person, and I'm lovely. I'm a lovely person. I would kick him in the teeth today, I think, if I saw him. That's how much of a emotional trigger he is. And I want to keep it that way because I used him. He was my left 100%.
Wow.
Of things that I despise. And I put on the whiteboard where smoking was, which I loved smoking. I smoked for almost 30 years.
Oh my gosh.
And I did this one time. And I put my hand into the whiteboard and I moved that smoking match and to go onto and layer with him 100% on the left.
Wow.
And I did it once and I never smoked again.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Like, I'm gonna like make a list of all the things I'm gonna like try to use this for.
You can. Even if you have a habit of eating some stuff that you love, but you know that's really bad for you.
Yeah.
You know, like poutine. We have poutine up here in Canada.
I've always wanted to try it.
It is so good. It is so good.
Yeah.
So love poutine. So I haven't, but I could use that on the whiteboard and move it over to the left.
Yeah.
To not want it, to not crave it, to not desire it. Or I drink a lot of tea and I should drink more water. So I could do this with figuring out where water is on the whiteboard and then moving it over to the right.
Okay. Yeah. So like, I just have so many ideas. I love it.
Yeah, good.
So if anybody else has any questions, then now's the time to put those in. And
we only have 10 minutes left. I've been like rambling for 50 minutes.
No, you're awesome. This has been like amazing. This has been so cool.
Good.
So I know we've had a few people join later. So if you did join late, you definitely want to go back and watch the beginning of this one because it's awesome. Jillian's awesome.
You. Anybody that does want the Shift from Fear toolkit, there's also other toolkits that I have, and I'll tell you a little bit. I know that I had told you about the Love Manifested Mastermind, which the link is in that description.
Okay.
One of my programs. So I use all of these techniques to shift limitations around self-love and around attracting love.
Okay.
So that is a 3-month program. I also have a 6-week program on right now, which is called The Art of Manifestation. So that program is about manifesting as a whole. Okay. And it's getting into the chakra systems and releasing traumas that sit in the chakras. So I talked before about the limiting beliefs and things that we grow up hearing and taking on as our own limiting beliefs or traumas. These traumas sit in different parts of our bodies. And that's why some people, I know we have body types, but a lot of times if we're holding fat or weight around certain types, that's because we are protecting that area. We have a lot of trauma that is sitting in that area. And oftentimes when we release that trauma, we lose that weight.
Wow.
That's kind of a kind of side effect. But the art of manifesting, we go into each trauma. So the fear would be in the root. Guilt is in the sacral, which is below the navel or belly button. Shame or lack of confidence would sit in your solar plexus, which is high belly right underneath the sternum. So oftentimes when we feel a lack of confidence or feel our powers taken away from us, we feel that right in our upper belly, upper gut. Unworthiness is in our heart. So oftentimes I'll say to people like that one affirmation, it's safe for me to be wealthy. If people say that and they think, oh, that doesn't feel good, a lot of times that's, I feel unworthy, and that'll be in the heart.
Okay.
So we go through a lot of these, and that's only a 6-week program. So that's on right now. But the other giveaways, other than the Shift from Fear, is a goal testing worksheet that I have. Okay. So this goes into the goals that you do have and taps into, are you confident? Are you really wanting that goal? Do you feel like you're worthy of that goal? Are you only interested in the goal, or are you committed and you're confident? So we rate and test all of that. I also have a Manifest Your Dreams toolkit or guide, and that walks people through how to manifest.
Cool. Yeah. And all that stuff is on your website?
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
Cool. So we'll make sure all the links get in there too. I know we have a couple of them, so I'll make sure all of those get in here too. So, it looks like we have one more question.
Yay.
I think we're good. Okay, cool. So that's all we have today. Thank you so much for coming in.
You are welcome.
It's been
for
super
having
fun.
me.
Yeah, it's been so much fun. And like I said, I'm going to go back and watch this a million more times, I'm sure. So if anybody has any questions watching the replay, put those in and we will answer them. I won't. You will. Hopefully, because I don't have the answers. But I encourage everybody to ask their questions.
Yeah, and even if you have something that you're wanting to be tested on, so I can test percentages. You just have to let me know that I can tap in and do that. But the NLP or the whiteboard is really useful for a lot of different things. And I really, I love telling people, please muscle test. Try to, muscle test with a partner first to see if you're at courage or above, to be able to muscle test yourself. And you can kind of freak somebody out by muscle testing and that their body. Now, there are like 5% of people who this doesn't work for.
Okay.
So they'll be strong for yes and strong for no.
Okay.
So there's a small percentage of people who it just doesn't work for.
Okay. I feel like it's like that with anything. Yeah. Well, cool. Okay. Well, put in comments after, and thank you for everybody showing up live and participating. And this has been awesome. So thank you, Jillian. Everybody have a great night, and we'll see you later.
All right. Thanks. Thanks, Brooke, a lot.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.